Hi, welcome. My name is Andy Raisen, one of the co-founders of Decentralize. Today I'm joined by Lex from Passage. He is the founder and CMO. Welcome, Lex.
Oh, it's my pleasure, brother. Glad to be here.
Thanks for your time. Now, for anybody that's not heard of Passage, can you give us a brief introduction? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, Passage is two things. It's a infrastructure or tooling to build really exciting, immersive virtual worlds that are more accessible and more immersive, super quick to access. Like basically, you can access these in a browser, but they look like a AAA game because of our fancy cloud compute infrastructure that's going on, streaming these into your browser. So they're accessible via mobile and yet still look like, a really immersive, realistic experience. So we're giving people tools to build that. At the same time, we're giving people tools to seamlessly connect or interoperate any number of virtual worlds or metaverses, right? The idea is we're using Cosmos IBC to create interoperability between virtual worlds. So we're creating this whole protocol from like the identity protocol at the top that controls like you, who you are, your relationships, your assets, and giving people the ability to take that with them anywhere, right? So like my identity in Decentraland is the same as it is in Facebook or Instagram, because like these are all the metaverse, right? The current like web landscape is the metaverse. It's just the problem is it hasn't fulfilled the real vision of metaverse, which is that value flows seamlessly. Basically, I believe Web3 is digital value, digital ownership, right? The metaverse is the promise that your digital value will go with you wherever you go, but it doesn't yet. Right now, it's like your friends are stuck in Facebook, your business connections are stuck in LinkedIn, your assets are stuck on the sinking ship that is FTX, right? Lord help us. But the promise of Passage and the true metaverse is that we're not here to tell you like, we're going to give you a bigger box to play in. Here's your larger walled garden. We're here to say there are no boundaries, right? Here are the bridges that connect every single virtual experience and allow you to move your assets, your identity, your relationships across all these platforms. That's Passage.
Amazing, hyper accessible. I love it.
Yeah. And if you just look around, right, so people can see in the video now, like this is what Passage looks like, right? So when I talk about an immersive experience, like this is it, right? And this is accessible on your phone, on your old tablet, laptop. Like the goal is that you come into experiences like this, you get this kind of face-to-face experience where you walk around. We're using Unreal Engine environments, right? And it's open, it's accessible, and this is what we're delivering for people who just want a drag and drop experience, right? I've got a community, I'm a content creator, I've got 100,000 followers, and I want to offer them something more meaningful than just a Discord channel, right? Like, let's be face-to-face, let's hang out together as a group. This is what we're building.
Amazing. No, it definitely sounds like the end of Web 2 experiences. And you talk about, partnerships. Are you able to give us an idea of the partnerships that you've got at the moment? Like what type of projects are working with Passage and why? Well,
I'll say this: our favorite project that's working with Passage right now is a little virtual music festival, and is I should say, I hate the word physical and digital. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies. But an omni-channel music festival named Dcentralize. It's one of our favorite partners doing the physical. Because here's the thing, like Decentralize, and we do have some other really, really exciting. Some of the partnerships we're most excited about are the ones that leverage Passage to its greatest extent and kind of like capitalize on the bigger vision, right? And so some of these partners, I can't name names yet, but large retail giant that we're working with that is really excited about connecting their physical footprint, right, with the virtual, right? And allowing these two things to interoperate to where you could go into a physical experience and unlock exclusive opportunities on the virtual and vice versa. And that like when you go into a virtual experience, your reputation for being a loyal brand member in store comes with you. And the other way around, where all the assets you've earned, your characters come with you in store, and you can represent when you're there, that when you scan going into the store or whatever, or scan at like an experience, I got to be vague and generic here, that you're unlocking stuff that is unique to you. They know who you are when you walk in the door because you carry your identity with you and you own your identity, right? Same thing with Decentralize, where it's like, we want people to be in person. We want the like, this environment is cool, the virtual, where we can look around and you can tell where people's attention are because it's three-dimensional. People over there are quieter. We can come and have a conversation even while people are talking. Like it emulates the three-dimensional and the personal. But what's really special about the physical is this is just how we were meant to communicate, right? Frankly, I think being together, especially when you talk about music, it's a spiritual experience, right? There's something really elevating and important about being together physically, right? And so it's like, we just want the best of both worlds, right? We want the extensibility and the openness of the virtual that invites new people in to get as close as possible, but then also maintaining the value of the physical so that people can be there, and wherever you are, your stuff should flow with you, right? So that's why we're excited about Dcentralize. There's so many really cool opportunities to showcase what we believe to be the height of the metaverse, which isn't just cool virtual experiences. It's how do those connect to the ultimate experience, which is being together physically, right? How do we bring our identity, not just from one virtual experience to another, but into the physical world with us? So,
yeah, it's really interesting. Making those connections through a digital platform is an exciting breakthrough in the Web3 space. You touched a little bit on it with regards to metaverse, and it's a word that seems to polarize people both inside and outside of Web3. Why do you think people are skeptical, and how do we showcase what the metaverse can provide and the solutions that it brings? You touched on a few a second ago, but real world problems, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, it's polarizing because it's been poorly defined, right? And so it's easy to take two sides of an issue that nobody understands, right? And ultimately for us, it's weird that the mainstream metaverses right now, the things that have gained the most popularity, and maybe it was just because they were first, right? Like Decentraland or Sandbox. It's not really a metaverse. It's just a game, right? It's just one game, right? And it's one visual style. It's so unified. It's no, that's a universe, right? That's one thing, right? That's what we know. It's this is a universe. A metaverse is meant to combine multiple experiences, right? And multiple perspectives. And ultimately, it is truly meta, right? And the whole word meta, when we talk about a line in a movie or a story being meta, it's because in order to understand it, the context is not simply found within the story, it's found outside the story. That's what meta means. It's a layer above the thing you're experiencing now. And so a metaverse isn't actually the experience itself. It's the layer above them, right? And that's what Passage is meant to be, right? Is this connection of all these different experiences. And I think this is something we can all get on board on. I think this is really not polarizing once you understand what it is. And it's just with the whole NFT conflict where people are oh, this is a scam, this is a ripoff, you're just trying to make money. And it's by giving you ownership of your digital goods, right? It's okay, maybe the pricing is not baked in yet, right? Maybe things are too expensive. That's fair. But that's because there's so much demand around this idea of ownership, right? That people are willing to pay maybe too much to own something that doesn't have fundamental value, right? But if you're just talking about the concept itself, the technology, it's well, shoot, this is just ownership, right? It's I'm actually giving up, as a creator, I'm giving up some money because you get to keep what it is I gave you, and it can potentially go with you out the door, out of my ecosystem. And that's what we want actually as Passage is, it's there really isn't anything to argue with here, because it's we're the anti-platform, right? We're not building another walled garden for you to get trapped in. We're actually building bridges where your value can go with you if you decide to leave. We're giving people the ability to opt out and say, hey, this platform or this virtual experience isn't serving my needs. I'm going to take my assets and my audience with me. Facebook doesn't allow you to do that. Instagram doesn't allow you to do that. They built a walled garden for that very purpose, so they can hold your relationships hostage. Their whole goal was build the connections here, and you'll hold on to this profile, this platform forever, because all your pictures are there, all your friends are there, grandma's there, And so it's really important for us to create something where it seems counterintuitive, to create something where value can go out the door, right? There's a bridge, so you can just leave with your stuff. It's no, we want you to stay here. The problem is when you build a walled garden, you're also keeping value out. What Passage is meant to do is to be open infrastructure to connect all these different metaverses and virtual experiences. So I think once you understand it, it's less polarizing, but everything's polarizing when people just don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that whole ethos about, it's in our name, decentralized, that whole decentralized ethos and being able to transport your identity in and out of those multiple worlds is really important to us, and one of the main reasons that we love working with you guys. We mentioned it we mentioned it slightly earlier about communities, and building communities in a digital space is very difficult, whether that's in Discord or whether that's using, say, crypto Twitter, for example. But how do we build like a real community in a metaverse environment and make really true, meaningful connections in what is really a digital space?
Yeah, I mean, so much of it is being clear. I think part of the way to create really bad community is this whole idea of like not clearly defining what this is, right? Common language. I mean, just in and of itself, right? The fact that we speak the same language is so much easier to relate fundamentally than somebody who's coming from a different language, right? Even once they know this language. So like having our terms defined and being clear about what it is that we're making is so important for creating community. And I even think about this in the silly things like, the made up words or the made up things that our communities bond over, like HODL. Or because we know what it means, right? It's not that it has any sense to it on the face, but like YOP with the Strange Clan community, one of the NFT communities that is near and dear to our heart. It's like these are made up things, but we get it, right? And actually, in some ways, the people who get it, the people who understand, there's more bond, there's more community and closeness if there is a cast of people who don't get it, right? Because then there is this there's this feeling of enlightenment or exclusivity where it's like we have an understanding of these things. So I think there will still be strong communities as it broadens, as more people are brought into the fold and understand. But another big part of this too is like sharing space together, right? And so that's why it's so important to come back to these physical experiences, right? I think the easiest way to kill community, because community, right, is that word to commune, to be together, right? And that's not just physical. Like there is communion that is had apart from the physical, where we can have unity or commonality through our shared interests, and that's what's really cool about, again, if you create an open ecosystem, the right people can connect and create communities, right? And like right now, it's weird that there's a community around the infrastructure. There's a blockchain community. It's like, really, like we're waiting until that's invisible. People don't have to worry about that, and they can just create their own community within that, right? And in the blockchain infrastructure, the decentralized infrastructure just serves to give people back power, right? Where you can bring your value into your community, and it's not trapped over here or trapped over there, but your community can move seamlessly between different virtual locations and things like that. So it really is this commonality, and all that to say, like, it is really important to have that physical element as well, because it's always about balance, right? Because both are really important. And you have a lot of people who, oppose this idea, this Ready Player One experience where you just like the virtual is everything, right? And it's like, this becomes your new world. And what's so funny is like, yeah, but you're already trapped in a metaverse. Like anybody who's been scrolling through TikTok, for an hour and like lost track of time, like, sorry, but that's the metaverse, guys. And you're trapped in it already. And it's like, what we want to do is make the digital so seamless and so fluid that you could also get out, right? Like that, like for instance, simple things, right? Where when we make the digital better, it actually enhances our physical experience. Because imagine if you didn't have to go to the bank for 2 hours to figure out your account, right? If finances were as simple as the digital assets that we own, right? We're as seamless as transactions on Cosmos, right? If that was all of finance, I didn't have to go and spend 2 hours in a bank. That 2 hours could be spent with things I care about more, right? Like with my family, with my team, with my community. And so it's like the digital allows us to just make better choices, right? And like kind of prioritize. Like, for instance, I collaborate with my team virtually in Passage, right? We have conversations, we have our collaborations and a lot of our meetings. And what that allows me to do is have a better connection with them virtually, not as good as if we're all in an office, but then it allows me to be home with my kids, right? And like to prioritize that relationship. So having this digital layer, it's always about balance. It's about being able to make good choices. Not that the digital is ever going to be just as good as the physical. It's just it allows you to prioritize and say like, okay, this is good enough for my collaboration here or for my managing finances or banking or whatever, right? And it allows me to make those more accessible and easier so that I can spend time in the places that are most important.
Yeah, amazing. I think that firsthand experience, especially across the decentralized team, is the time that we've spent in your worlds as a team has been time much better spent together than we have, say, on a Google Meet or a Microsoft Teams meeting, and that kind of interaction is much more meaningful, although you're not there in real life. And that kind of brings us on to the one of my next questions, really. Obviously, we're forming an in real life event. We're building together on a project, and it's culminating in our festival next year. I'd be interested from your side. You've already mentioned a few things, but what excites you about the project and why?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely probably one of the biggest things is this overlap of the physical and the digital, right? Because what we're doing is we're not only it's being translated two ways, right? You have people who are being brought to the virtual experience or to the physical experience through a virtual layer, right? And so they get to participate. And at the same time, we're taking the physical elements like the bands on stage and the performers and transporting them into the virtual. And so bringing these two audiences closer together. To me, that's really exciting because it kind of like you get the best of both worlds, where for people who can be there physically, we want them to be able to, and there's lots of ways we're creatively iterating around these ideas of like, how do you see the virtual people present with the physical people, right? Whether it's like through screens where like, as you're moving around the virtual space, you can see people popping up in these different portals physically, right? And then on the virtual side, you can see, right, you can walk around the event and be able to see the stage, be able to see the performers, and you get this sense of being there in a way that you'll never get through like a live stream, right? And it's so funny because there's a sense in which like, well, maybe a live stream would be better in some regards because you could have like, because in the virtual experience, the user is the cameraman. And we all know how terrible grandma is with her camera, right? And so it's like, well, wouldn't it be a better experience to have a professional, these big flyover shots and what? It's like, yes and no, because it's just not as human, right? It's cool, but it's not like being there. And even if you're like 100 feet back, right, shoulder to shoulder in the crowd, like that's still a better experience than watching it, on television, right? And so there's something really special about being able to feel the energy of the crowd and being able to like be able to create your own perspective of the experience, right? So that's probably one of the most exciting things. It's just that unique overlap of the physical and the digital, and being able to give people just a little bit more freedom and bring people a little bit closer to something that they're thousands of miles away from.
Absolutely. I think that freedom element's massive, isn't it? Being able to decide whether you want to get closer to the stage or step further away and have a conversation with somebody that maybe you've met in the metaverse is quite a unique opportunity. It's completely different to anything that we've seen before.
Yeah. 100%.
And then just to sum up, really looking ahead, you guys, I know, are building some amazing stuff, but what does the future of, the metaverse with the project look like with Passage versus, say, the metaverse that we're all experiencing at the moment? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Invisible. I mean, this is the key, right? Is like, you wouldn't notice it as much. You wouldn't be like, well, shoot, I've got to download a new wallet for this one. I've got to like set up a new account for this thing. And it's like, it would just get out of the way, right? It would be a lot more like the physical, because when I want to walk into somebody's house or go to an event, it's like, yeah, you got to think about whether or not I've got that pass to get in there, but I don't have to think like, do I have the right identity, right? Like, have I used the right password? Like, what was that password and two-factor authentication, which email is that going to? It's like, this stuff will just get out of the way, because ultimately the idea is you have one identity, just like I am one person, right? And it's even more seamless in the real world because, in the real world, we've got like cards and stuff people have to look at. And like, does it look like the driver's license, whatever. In this, it's like your whole identity can live, on your phone. It can live in a place that you control, right, on your own hardware, and you can scan it. And not only do they know like you're who you say you are, but they also know like, oh shoot, this guy's been to like 10 of our premier events. Like, we need to make sure he gets in the VIP booth or whatever, right? Like, this is when you control your identity and your information to the best of your abilities, right? That's the ideal scenario, where it's like you have control. It is easy to access, right? It's not prohibitive to get access to your identity. And this is an interesting thing in so many layers, because it starts off with like entertainment, right? Entertainment and games and the applications that we use every day, bleeds into finance and a lot of other things where it's important to have control of your identity and your assets. But then that also goes into like, I mean, not to go way out there, but like voting or like other things, other ways we engage with our local communities, our broader community. It's like, I need to be able to easily get access. And to us, this is a big part of the reason that Passage has really prioritized the streaming infrastructure, where you can get this in your browser, where you could access Passage at your local library, right? Or through a smartphone, right? So that people in a third world country who, may not have access to a big gaming PC or anything like that, but they can get, a Wi-Fi connection at the local internet cafe, right? Or things like that, or they have a smartphone, they can tap into this global network, right? They can be there as present as possible, right? Alongside, all the people from other countries, other nations, allowing people to connect across borders, right? This is what's exciting to me, is the opportunity, right? Giving people opportunity from all across the world, whether it's educational opportunities, work opportunities, advancement opportunities, like being able to improve themselves, being able to improve their communities, right? Because they can now participate more fully in this global community. So that's a big part of it. That's what excites me, because it's like, I just know when people connect better, right? When people get to be part of, we're embracing this tagline of your open world, right? Like, because it belongs to you, there is inherent ownership and inherent value in the individual, right? It's open. It's meant to be open infrastructure. It's meant to be open in our ethos, and everything about this is meant to be open and free, right? Opportunity being created. And this idea of an open world, right? The world is meant to be big. It's meant to be immersive. It's meant to feel large and like a place where people can be creative and create new things. So that's what I'm excited about. That's where things are going. I think it's gonna be different, and I'm stoked to have creators like Dcentralize alongside us, because it's going to be a long journey. There's a lot to do. We need the best of the best hustling.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And I guess you haven't seen this question. I'm just going to throw it out there. Have you got any Passage alpha that you can throw everybody that's listening?
Oh man, big things are coming. I will say this, within the next month or so, we'll be dropping our list of the first 10 worlds dropping on Passage. And it's exciting, because while so many people in crypto are focused on crypto, it's like, we're looking out to the 99%, to the rest of the world. We want to open this up to the retail, right? Again, Passage is about accessibility. It's about openness. And so, we're partnering with some really exciting brands. I'm excited to drop some of that stuff. The alpha is just, we're still here, we're building. And we've set up our team in a way that, we'll be here for the long haul. Not intimidated by this wild winter season that we're having, because this is what we're here for, right? This is what we prepared for, and we're building something that's going to, really surpass, the short life cycle that is, so many crypto projects, where it's like, it's just a toilet paper fire, right? It's just like up in an instant and gone, right?
Yeah.
And we're here for the long haul. That's the alpha, right? The alpha is the people. And there's lots of exciting things I could hint at, but most importantly, it's like, the alpha is build alongside people who have been through it, who have been through the ringer, right? Build alongside people who have been hustling. And here's the thing, like, we have a background working with exciting brands like Capitol Records. So other music brands as well, right? Capitol Records, Amazon, Scooter Braun, like, we've worked with some really cool people. We've done virtual productions for Warner Brothers, Marvel, Dallas Cowboys, Red Bull. And it's like, we've been through it. Like, we've been through crazy timelines. We've been through crazy pressure, big audiences, 30,000 users in a weekend. Like, there's lots of cool things that we've done, to where, like, crypto winter's fun, man. And it's cool to see how we get to see the thinning of the herd a little bit, and like, who's going to be here for the long haul.
Yeah. It's an interesting time, and look, as always, appreciate your time. And if you wanted to, I don't know if you want to drop some links to, or mention the links to where people can find you, that'd be amazing.
Yep. You can find us at passage.io or passage.io on Twitter. Those are the places to come hang.
Great stuff. Lex, as always, pleasure to have you. Thanks for your time, and we'll just keep building.
Pleasure's mine, brother.
Thanks.